Welcome, my friends. Welcome to the Inspiring You Show. If we haven't met, I'm Henry. So, this is a resonance field, a stabilized architecture where your soul's true signal is held, recognized, and allowed to become visible in form without distortion. And however you're listening, receiving the replay, or simply opening to the light transmission through presence, your field is already participating. You're not arriving from the outside. You're not trying to enter something you missed. If your soul said yes, your human said yes, you're already in the field. You're already within the architecture. You're already held in the correspondence that is ready to meet you. This space honors your sovereignty. Nothing is imposed, nothing is pushed, nothing is forced into form before it is ready. Only what is aligned becomes structural within your field. And always respecting free will, only supporting your highest good. Soul agreement with your human body, nervous system, free will is invited to participate. So, with that, my friends, May 2026 carries the frequency of visible reorganization through accurate correspondence. Reality begins to take shape around stabilized signal. So, that is the overall theme for the May energy forecast for 2026. And so, May is not a month about forcing movement, it's not a month of performing readiness, it is not a month of gripping the first signs of form. May is a month where what began responding in April starts becoming more visible, more practical, and more embodied. Support may become more tangible. Timing may begin reorganizing. Contact may reveal true fit. And so old loops may lose reinforcement. Ease may become more believable, and reality may begin taking shape around what is already stabilized within you. And this space is held for that movement. And so it's not through urgency, through pressure, through self adjustment, but through structural residency, through soul tone, through light form becoming lived form in working with your human for the highest good. And so I do want to share though, before we really get into this, if you're listening to the public version on podcast or YouTube, you may hear references to the crystalline dowsing and Reiki energy healing session that follows this energy forecast. So that full multidimensional recalibration is available exclusively for the Inspiring You All Access Patreon members. And if you feel called into the deeper work, the link will be in the show notes. Okay, with that, my friends, let's begin with the breath. So let's just take a moment, inhale, allow your body to arrive what has already stabilized. So allow your body to arrive inside what is already stabilized, and then exhale. Release the impulse to manage what is beginning to take shape. So let's do this again. And let's take another breath. Inhale, receive the possibility that support can become practical without self betrayal. Exhale, soften the old reflex to grip timing, contact, or evidence before the form is ready. And let's take another breath. And one more breath. Inhale, I remain in my soul tone while reality begins to take shape. And then exhale. I do not have to force form. I allow coherence to become visible through accurate correspondence. So take another breath. All right. Let's begin, my friends. So as I already mentioned, actually let's just take a moment to note the shift. You may feel like it's 5D or higher, quantum, whatever you call it. I feel like it's that real deep coherence piece, that real stability within it too. It's almost like for me, it's really tactile. Like I can just really sense it and feel it. So check in to see how it feels for you. All right. I just like to note it because when it happens, I feel so grateful and it just also joyful and it just feels so good. And I just like to note it too. So the May's overall theme, as I mentioned, is visible reorganization through accurate correspondence. Reality begins taking shape around the stabilized signal. And then the embodiment key is arc of structural correspondence from response beginning to visible reorganization. And then the arc context is the embodiment key is under the arc of structural residency, format year two, inhabiting the original design of the soul, becoming legible to the field without adjusting tone. So, this is the central movement of the month. May is not simply another month of response. April was response beginning. May is response beginning to take visible form. It's the light and physical form. So, this is an important distinction. In April, the field began moving in response to what it had learned to read in March. There may have been subtle shifts in contact, communication, timing, support, external feedback. But much of April's movement was still early. It was still quiet. It was still the first stage of alignment after recognition. So May brings the next layer. May is where some of that movement begins becoming easier to see, easier to feel, easier to identify in lived reality. And it's not as final arrival, not as complete reorganization. It's not as everything suddenly becomes clear, stable, or fully formed, but as the first visible shape of response. And that's why the word visible here matters. Visible does not mean dramatic. Visible does not mean undeniable to everyone around you. Visible does not mean externally impressive. Visible means the field begins showing evidence of what has already moved, a timing shift, a practical opening, a support structure, a decision becoming clearer, a relationship revealing true fit, an old loop losing charge, a body response softening, a path becoming less effortful, a structure beginning to gather where before there was only inner knowing. So, May is the month where reality begins taking shape around the stabilized signal. And so we're talking about the soul signal here. And when the guides say, you know, again, when the guides say stabilized signal, they are referring to that soul tone that has become more continuous through the earlier arc. This is not the signal of urgency, adaptation, survival, over explanation, or self adjustment. This is the signal of the light format that has become more inhabited, more legible, and more consequential. The stabilized signal is not something you're trying to project, it's the tone you're learning to live from without leaving it. And because that signal has become more stable, the field begins to organize around it with greater accuracy. And this is what accurate correspondence means. Accurate correspondence is when the external field begins responding to the actual soul tone rather than the adaptive tone, survival tone, or old distortion patterns. It's not the field giving you everything you want immediately. It's the field beginning to reflect what is true with less distortion. So that may show up as support. It may show up as clarity. It may show up as relational truth becoming undeniable. It may show up as something closing because it cannot meet the current structure. It may show up as ease where there used to be strain. It may show up as a decision that finally feels aligned in the body. It may show up as timing that begins to make more sense. And that's why May's theme is not simply like reorganization. It's visible reorganization through accurate correspondence. Because reorganization in May does not happen through force, it happens through accuracy. The field is not randomly rearranging, it's beginning to take shape around what has become structurally true. And so that is where May may feel both supportive and revealing. Supportive because you may begin seeing evidence that life can meet you differently, revealing because what does not match the stabilized soul tone may become harder to ignore, which then with the human, you may really have to also use your tools to process emotions. If there's any sadness or grief that comes up, or even anxiety or overwhelm about realizing something, is not matching your soul tone and it's becoming harder to ignore. And your nervous system may become, flared up. So you might have to use your tools to support yourself as you're processing this. Just because you're having insights and realizations, it does not mean he's going to forego the experience of, emotions coming up to support you in the signaling, and also any thoughts that you also might need to like process and complete as well. So that's why though, with May is both includes both. That's why with May includes both tangible support and accurate sorting. Some things begin forming because they can meet the signal. Some things begin loosening because they cannot. Both are part of visible reorganization. May does not only bring what fits closer, it also makes what does not fit more obvious. And so that's not as punishment, it's not as loss, it's not as failure, it is as accuracy. So with that then, this month is helping the field reorganize around the signal that is actually true now. And so that's why just taking some time to process and understand this, it really can support you in helping as you move through the month of May. Okay, and so before we get even further into the forecast, I just want to bring in a definition of the word fit because obviously on social media or in videos, people may do fit checks, which in a sense, but the guides brought this in. They were bringing in for a bit now the word fit, and I asked for a clear definition. So here's a definition of fit from the guides. Fit means whether a person, relationship, interaction, environment, opportunity, or form of contact can genuinely meet your stabilized soul tone without requiring you to leave, soften, distort, translate, perform, or overgive or reorganize yourself to keep connection functional. It does not mean it's perfect. It does not mean comfortable all the time. It does not mean they agree with you. It does not mean there is never friction. True fit means the contact can hold a real relationship with your actual signal. It can meet what is present without needing you to become less precise, less clear, less embodied, less real, or less internally referenced. So when the guides say contact reveals true fit per se, like they mean the month of may make it easier to feel. Can this person actually meet me where I am now? Can this environment support my stabilized field? Can this opportunity align with my soul signal without asking me to betray it? Can this relationship remain coherent when I do not adjust my tone? Can this contact stay accurate when I'm not over explaining, compensating, or managing the emotional field around it? So, Oversoul Stream of Sahara shared this about fit. Fit is not preference. Fit is not preference. Fit is structural compatibility. A thing may be familiar and not fit. A person may be kind and still not fit. An opportunity may be attractive and still not fit. A relationship may hold love and still require too much adaptation to remain coherent. Fit means the external form can enter relationship with the soul tone without demanding distortion from it. So the month of May reveals fit because response is becoming more visible. When response becomes visible, the field can no longer hide certain incompatibilities under potential history, explanation, or hope. So, what can meet the stabilized signal becomes clearer. What requires the stabilized signal to bend also becomes clearer. And this is not rejection, this is accuracy. So, that's the end of the message from Ovaso Saharo. And then Soul Aligned Higher Self Aurelia shared this. Fit is the body saying, this can meet me without me leaving myself. Whereas misfit feels like I have to manage myself, edit myself, explain myself, soften myself, or leave parts of myself behind in order for this to keep working. And that's the difference in how you discern. Fit allows your body to remain present. Misfit pulls your body into management. Fit allows your soul tone to remain continuous. Misfit asks the field to keep adjusting so the contact can continue. Fit feels like there is room for your actual signal. Misfit feels like your signal has to be reduced, translated, or buffered. Fit often feels quieter than excitement. It may feel clean, steady, breathable, and honest. Misfit feels like pressure, over explaining, contraction, confusion, self editing, or the sense that you have to manage yourself in order for the contact to remain safe or functional. True fit does not always feel flashy. It often feels simple. It feels like your system does not have to work so hard to remain true. So that's the end of the message from Aurelia. And so I really love that. A lot of times they'll just utilize also language that we are using here and really connect the dots even a bigger way. So if you are on the Inspiring You Patreon, the I already did the post for the May energy forecast in the schedule, and there is the definition in there as well if you would like to look at it. All right, so the deeper question of May is, can you let reality begin taking shape without trying to control the shape too soon? Can you allow support to become practical without turning it into pressure? Can you allow relational truth to reveal itself without overriding your body? Can you let old loops lose reinforcement without re entering them? Can you let timing reorganize without forcing it into your preferred pace? Can you let first form be first form and not final form? And then this is the maturity of May, of the month of May. It's not a month of pushing. It is not a month of allowing visible correspondence to begin. Sorry, let me say that again. It's not a month of pushing. It is a month of allowing visible correspondence to begin organizing. So it's a month of allowing visible correspondence to begin organizing. So this field is no longer only beginning to respond to your soul tone. This field is beginning to show what response becomes when it starts taking form. And that's the essence of the overall theme. So the field is no longer only registering your soul tone. The field is no longer only beginning to respond to your soul tone. The field is beginning to show what response becomes when it starts taking form. All right. So Oversoul Sahariel shares about this. Visible reorganization does not mean the human controls the form. It means the field begins revealing form. And this distinction is important. This discernment is important. The human may see movement and immediately try to manage it. The human may see support and immediately try to secure it. The human may see an opening and immediately try to make it permanent. The human may see relational clarity and immediately try to resolve the entire connection. So May asks for another way. Let the first form appear. Let the field show what has changed. Let the body receive evidence without making evidence into a demand. The stabilized signal does not need to chase the form. The stabilized signal remains the organizing center while the stabilized signal remains the organized center while form gathers. So that is why May is a month of structural correspondence. The inner structure and the outer field begin relating more visibly, not perfectly, not completely, not finally, but truthfully enough that the body begins to understand. My coherence is no longer only internal. My soul tone is beginning to take shape. My soul tone is beginning to shape the field around me. Reality is beginning to organize in response to what has become true. So that is the end of the message from Oversoul Sahariel. And then Soul Aligned Higher Self Aurelia shares this. For the body, the month of may feel like something is finally starting to show itself, but that can bring tenderness because when something begins to show itself, the body, the human, may want to know, can I trust this? Will it stay? What does it mean? What do I have to do now? How do I keep it from disappearing? And this is where the integration is. The month of May is not asking the body to fully trust everything immediately. It's asking the body to take in evidence slowly. One moment of support, one cleaner conversation, one timing shift, one easier next step, one old loop that does not hook the same way, one relationship that reveals more light truth, one decision that feels clear in the body. These are not small, they are the beginning of form. So let them land and let them be real without needing them to become everything. This is the human, this is the body learning visible reorganization without bracing. All right, so let's get into the 9 themes then that are under the umbrella of the overall theme. So the first theme, theme number 1, response becomes visible. The field shows what has already begun moving. So May opens by revealing evidence. This does not mean dramatic evidence. It does not mean every answer arrives. It does not mean the external field suddenly reorganizes all at once. It means something that began moving in April becomes easier to perceive. So in April, the movement may have been subtle. It may have appeared as a cleaner conversation, a softer response, a small opening, a shift in timing, or a sense that the field was beginning to move differently around you. So the month of May takes the subtle response and begins making it more visible. You may notice that something that felt unclear begins showing its direction. You may notice that a relationship reveals more light truth through consistency or even lack of consistency. You may notice that support becomes easier to identify. You may notice that an opportunity, decision, or next steps begins forming where there had only been energetic movement before. But the important part of this teaching is this: the month of May asks you to recognize evidence without gripping it. That's right, my friends. Because when the human, in this humaning experience, when the body has waited a long time for life to respond, the first visible signs can activate proof seeking. The mind may want to gather every sign and turn it into certainty. The nervous system may want to lock the evidence into a conclusion before the form is actually ready. So, theme 1 says, let evidence be evidence. Do not dismiss it. Do not overinterpret it. Do not force it into final form. Visible correspondence is the field showing you what has already begun moving. It is not yet the completed structure. It is the first visibility of response becoming form. So, this theme supports the body in saying, something has moved, something is becoming visible. I can acknowledge it without needing to control it. Okay, so with that, then we move to theme 2. Theme 2 is staying in soul tone while movement increases. Coherence holds during outer change. So, this is one of the central teachings of May. When nothing is moving, the work may feel like patience, faith, steadiness, or internal residency. So, when movement increases, another layer of the nervous system can activate. Support arrives, and the body may want to perform. Timing shifts, and the mind may want to control the outcome. A person responds differently, and the emotional field may want to overinterpret it. An opening appears, and the system may want to adjust itself to keep the door open. Theme two is the practice of staying in soul tone while life begins moving more visibly. This is not passivity. It does not mean you do nothing. It does not mean you avoid choices, conversations, or action. It means the action arises from coherence instead of from the fear of losing what is forming. That is the distinction. The month of may bring movement that asks for participation. You may need to respond to an email, make a choice, have a conversation, receive help, make a change, accept an opening, or let something complete. But the field is asking, can you act without leaving yourself? Can you participate without adjusting your tone? Can you let visible movement happen without becoming the manager of the entire field? This is where soul tone becomes more lived. Not only in stillness, not only in meditation, not only when the environment is quiet, but while the external field is moving. So, theme two teaches that coherence does not need to collapse when life becomes active. Soul tone can remain continuous while form begins. Let's just take a nice deep breath on this. And I just want to acknowledge, as I was just sharing this, my parents have become very present as well as with some of my ancestors too. And if you don't know, my mom just passed April 19th, 2026. And all of a sudden, I could just feel, and my dad passed in June 2020. And so all of a sudden, I could just feel the presence of both my parents and some ancestors. And it's really powerful. And whew, it's two things can be true. It's really powerful, peaceful, beautiful, and also you can feel sadness and grief, and you can have these moments. And yeah, so I just wanted to recognize that and share it. I'm taking another deep breath. And also just what helps me during this too, I before we even started, I turned on Reiki, and this whole podcast is light encoded. And then I recognize how I'm feeling, what's happening. I label I label the emotions, and then when I'm ready, I ask for more Reiki, and then I do box breathing. I breathe in 4 times, hold my breath either 2 or 4 times, and then breathe out 4 times. That really supports. It can support the nervous system, and for me, it's been just really supportive and helpful as well. And just noting how you're feeling is really important to process the emotions and to understand what it is so that you're not like bypassing the experience as well. All right. So, with that, just going to say thanks for my ancestors showing up and my mom and dad for showing up for support. I feel like they're just really smiling and grinning. Yeah. Okay. So, theme number three, how apropos, because theme number three is support takes more tangible form, receiving becomes practical. I mean, y'all, you just can't make this stuff up. How amazing is that? Oh my god. And I also want to say, like, I'm also wearing this is my mom's dress, and there's some items of hers that I brought back with me, and I just know that she definitely gets a kick out of me choosing to bring some of her clothes back, and I feel as like I'm wearing like a warm hug from my mom. Yeah, it does, my friends. Okay, so theme 3. Support takes more tangible form, receiving becomes practical. April introduced support as correspondence. May begins making support more practical. I mean, y'all, how amazing is that? They didn't come early on. They came like halfway through that other theme, and now and I didn't even remember what this theme was until I went to share it, and how just incredible. That's just awe-inspiring. All right. Theme 3. Support takes more tangible form, receiving becomes more practical. April introduced support as correspondence. May begins making support more practical. So, this is a significant shift because support may no longer be only energetic, emotional, subtle, or symbolic. It may begin appearing in ways that touch daily life more directly. So, support may appear through a person offering help, a resource becoming available, a timing issue resolving, a conversation becomes easier, a decision becomes clearer, a process requires less effort, a door opening without the same strain, a form of assistance landing for the human or in the body instead of remaining an idea. Um, so, with that, then the month of May's deeper teaching is not simply that support appears, it is that support can become practical without requiring you to leave yourself. So, for many people, support has been entangled with pressure, obligation, debt, overgiving, repayment, loyalty, guilt, or the fear of hidden cost. So when support becomes tangible, the human, or rather the body as well, may not immediately relax. It may ask, what do I owe now? How do I keep this? What will this require of me? Do I need to become more available? Do I need to soften my tone so the support continues? So, theme 3 is about really recalibrating that pattern that may have become like non beneficial, or maybe it's complete and there's still aspects of it that hasn't fully released and shifted for the human. So receiving becomes practical while the individual field remains anchored in its own soul tone rather than reorganizing itself around the support that arrives. So this means support can be received as support, not as demand, not as proof of worth, not as something to repay through self abandonment, not as something that becomes your new center. Support is allowed to become part of lived structure. The field remains self held, the soul tone remains intact. The body learns that receiving can be grounded, simple, and clean. And then with that, then we go to theme 4. Relational accuracy becomes harder to ignore. Contact reveals true fit. Go along with that true fit again, that fit again, right? So this theme is very precise. Fit does not mean surface compatibility. It does not mean comfort. It does not mean chemistry alone. It does not mean someone is good or bad. It does not mean every aligned relationship is always easy. In this energy forecast, and what the guides mean is fit means structural compatibility with your stabilized soul tone. It means a person, relationship, opportunity, environment, or form of contact can meet your field without requiring self adjustment, distortion, over explanation, self abandonment, or energetic compensation. So, fit is the body saying or the human saying, this can meet me while I remain in my own soul tone. And a lack of fit may feel like this only seems to this only seems to continue if I keep adapting myself around it. So the month of May make this clearer through lived contact. So Someone's words may say one thing, but their consistency may reveal another. An opportunity may look aligned, but the human or the body may feel how much self adjustment it would require. A relationship may hold love, history, or familiarity, but the month of May may show whether it can actually meet the structure you now live from. And this is not about harsh judgment, it's about accuracy. The month of May is not asking you to reject everything that feels imperfect. It's asking you to stop overriding what your field can now clearly feel. There's a difference between a relationship that has healthy, in a sense, human complexity and a relationship that requires your soul tone to become less itself in order to continue. And so there is a difference and there's a discernment to make. And there's a difference also between a space that challenges growth and a space that repeatedly requires distortion. There's a difference between contact that stretches capacity and contact that pulls you out of your own center. And theme 4 helps the body, the human, really feel and understand that difference. Relational accuracy becomes harder to ignore because the stabilized signal is no longer as available for adaptive contact. So, what truly fits can feel cleaner, steadier, more breathable, and more structurally compatible. What does not fit becomes harder to explain away. This is not loss. This is the field sorting through light truth. And so, with that, then it brings us to theme number 5. So, theme 5 is timing begins reorganizing. Delays, openings, and pace become more coherent. So, the month of May bring changes in timing. This is one of the ways visible reorganization becomes practical. A delay may begin moving, an opening may arrive, a pause may reveal its purpose, a conversation may happen at the right moment, a decision may become clearer after waiting. A path may slow down because the structure is not ready to hold it yet. Another path may move more quickly because the field has already aligned. So theme 5 teaches. I just want to take a moment, just also as I'm sharing this, I'm just thinking humaning is amazing yet so complex and complicated at times because all these things can be happening. A delay may begin happening, an opening may arrive, a decision may become clear after waiting. It's not, I think sometimes, we just want it to be so simple and it's so many things at once. So many things at once. And I just want to take that moment to recognize this humaning experience. All right. So, theme 5 teaches that timing is not random. In May, timing becomes part of structural correspondence. So, this does not mean every delay is spiritually meaningful in an over complicated way. It means the field may be organizing. It means the field may be organizing pace more divine intelligently than the mind can immediately understand. And so that's important to understand. And there also may be an old pattern that might be a non-beneficial pattern now or something that's complete that may interpret timing through fear or even anxiety. And so the old pattern could be saying, you know, interpret timing through fear, like delay means abandonment, a pause means failure, an opening means urgency. Speed means pressure. Waiting means powerlessness. Movement means I have to act immediately. And the month May is about then bringing the opportunity to recalibrate this. And when I'm sharing this too, I'm saying May recalibrates this. It's not, even though there's access to it in terms of the external field and what's being brought in terms of the cosmic energies, it doesn't mean necessarily every human is going to accept it and recalibrate. You have free will. So, what you do with this is up to you in terms of utilizing the light encoded information and working with it. And there might be things with a human that things that may need to be cleared or shifted in order to allow this to be integrated in terms of the opportunity to be integrated as well. Okay, so with this theme, then timing becomes information, not threat. So the human is then going to be able to learn to ask, or the body learns to ask, is this delay protecting accuracy? Is this opening aligned with soul signal? Is this pace coherent? Am I being asked to move, or am I being asked to wait for the structure to clarify? Can I trust timing without collapsing into urgency? So, this theme is deeply connected to decision making because if timing is reorganizing, then decisions cannot be made only from old urgency. They need to be made from structural clarity. And so, the month of May can support and help the field move with pace rather than against it. And then that brings us to theme number 6. Old loops lose their reinforcement, distortion has less to attach to. So this theme may be quiet, but it is powerful. Visible reorganization does not only happen because new things appear, it also happens because old loops stop receiving the same reinforcement. A familiar pattern may come up, a familiar pattern may come around again, but something in you does not respond the same way. A person may activate an old role, but your field may not enter it. A fear may surface, but it may not take over. A familiar urgency may arise, but it may pass more quickly. A distortion may appear, but it may not be able to attach in terms of the same way. An old identity an old identity may return, but it may feel less believable. And so this is not because you fought the loop harder, it's because the loop has less structural support. And you may have been doing a lot of clearing on these things as well and asking for things to call in to shift. And this may be the moment when the work really does show up in a grander way, my friends. Old loops are often held in place at times by participation, repetition, emotional charge, identity attachment, and nervous system familiarity. That's why in the meditate with me practices, we have been doing a lot of nervous system tools because you have to clear out the nervous system and then you're basically embodying new ways of being. And you have to allow the nervous system, it's kind of like if you go to the gym and you're training and your muscles, it's kind of like you're doing the same thing with your nervous system. You're training the nervous system, getting the nervous system in relationship to another shape, if you will, or another way of being. And your nervous system has to become accustomed to this as well. That's why the practices really matter, or in my life has made such a difference. And then I've just seen it in other people's as well. Okay, so when the stabilized soul tone becomes stronger, the loop has left the loop has less to feed on. And so when the stabilized soul tone is stronger, becomes stronger, the loop has less to feed on. That's the other thing about soul tone. People automatically think that your soul is always with you and that it's there, and it may be, but your soul tone may not be that strong because there may be a lot of distortion energy that is present. And it's not right, wrong, good, or bad. It's the business of business. And it's certainly been here on earth. And so that's where then learning energy work can really support you. Okay, so the month of May supports the withdrawal of reinforcement. This can feel strange because some people expect healing to look dramatic, but sometimes a loop dissolves because it simply stops organizing the field. It loses relevance, it loses charge, it loses authority, it loses the ability to define what happens next. So, theme 6 helps clear the subtle ways we keep feeding what we are ready to outgrow, not through blame, not through force, but through structural maturity. The field begins saying, I do not need to re enter this to understand it. I do not need to keep animating what no longer matches my soul tone. I do not need to give distortion the center of the field. This is part of visible reorganization because when the old loops lose reinforcement, reality has more room to form around what is true. All right, with that, it brings us to theme number 7 then. Practical decisions begin aligning with soul signal. Form responds to inner structure. So the month of May is not only energetic, it becomes practical. This is one of the places where the forecasts really comes into down into daily life. And so with that then, that means choices may arise around schedule, work, offerings, relationships, health, support, money, communication, home, timing, commitments, or creative direction. So the question may ask is not what choices keep everything safe. The question is, this is the question in regard to this theme for May. What choice remains accurate to soul signal? So, what choice remains accurate to soul signal? So, this theme is important because many people can feel their soul signal internally, but still make practical decisions from urgency, guilt, obligation, fear of disappointing others, scarcity, or the need to secure an outcome. And the month of May begins changing that. Form responds to inner structure when practical decisions start aligning with what is already true. So, this may mean simplifying something. It may mean saying yes to support. It may mean saying no to something that no longer fits. It may mean moving more slowly. It may mean taking the next step that is actually available. It may mean letting a structure become easier instead of making it more impressive. It may mean trusting the decision that brings the body into coherence rather than one that satisfies old pressure. So, theme 7 supports action, but not pressure based action. This is beneficial action. Theme 7 supports structure, but not rigidity. Theme 7 supports choices that allow the external form to reflect the internal light truth more accurately. This is how visible reorganization becomes lived, not by waiting passively for life to rearrange or by waiting passively for life to arrange everything, but by making practical choices from the stabilized signal instead of from the old survival signal. And with that, then it brings us to theme number 8. And so the body learns ease without suspicion, safety with things becoming less hard. So this theme is tender and very human. When life has required effort for a long time, ease can feel unfamiliar. Ease can feel uncomfortable. Ease may bring up anxiety. Ease may bring up fear because when life has required a lot of effort for a long time, or if you've been in, you know, survival mode for a long time, ease can feel unfamiliar. The human, the body may know how to survive pressure. It may know how to function under strain. It may know how to overgive, over prepare, over explain, over manage, and push through. But ease may feel less familiar than effort. Have you ever thought about that or reflected on it? How ease may feel less familiar than effort? Wowzers, right? You can ask, and I want this with ease and grace, but you may be in a non beneficial pattern of over efforting or so used to doing that you haven't shifted more into beingness. So be kind to your human. Be kind to your human. So when something becomes easier, the nervous system may not immediately trust it. The nervous system may search for the hidden cost. The nervous system may anticipate the demand that will come later. The nervous system may wonder whether the support is real, and the human may wonder, in a subconscious level too, whether the support is real. It may question whether simplicity is safe. It may assume that if something is not hard, it may not be legitimate. Because again, you may have, from maybe for your whole life thus far, have been in this way of being, doing, habiting, that everything has felt like it has been like, going up Mount Everest again and again. And it's been so difficult at times and has been so costly in terms of effort that your relationship with ease may just seem so unfamiliar. And so your nervous system may not be used to it. Your human may not be used to it. Your mental body may have a lot to say. You may have emotions that are coming up. And so in the humaning, you may not be used to this, but obviously your soul though knows the difference too. So you can really strengthen your connection to your soul here and ask for your guides to support you and do any kind of, you know, tool work that supports you, energy work as well. But theme 8 offers a recalibration. So theme 8 recalibrates the body's relationship to ease. So ease is not always avoidance. Ease is not always bypassing. Ease is not always a trap. Ease is not always less meaningful than effort. Sometimes ease is what happens when distortion decreases. Sometimes ease is what support feels like when it is not tangled in self-betrayal. Sometimes ease is what timing feels like when it is more coherent. Sometimes ease is what fit feels like when the field no longer has to contort to participate. So the month of May helps the body learn that things becoming less hard can become part of visible reorganization. So the month of May can help the body learn that things becoming less hard can be part of visible reorganization. This does not mean all difficulty disappears, my friends. It means the system no longer has to treat strain as proof that something is valuable. And so, with that, the human and the body learns I can let this be easier. I can receive without preparing for punishment. I can receive without immediately feeling like I have to give back. I can allow simplicity without mistrusting it. I can stop using difficulty as a measure of truth. And this is a deep, deep, deep nervous system update. I mean, how incredible is that for having a nervous system update? Woo! And with that, that brings us to theme number 9. Theme 9. Visible reorganization begins, reality takes shape around the stabilized signal. So, and this is stabilized signal, soul signal, right? So theme 9 is the closing threshold of May. This is where the month reveals its deeper purpose. This is where the month reveals its deepest function. Reality begins taking shape around what has already stabilized. Not completely, not permanently in every area, not in the final form, but enough that visible reorganization has begun. So this can appear through placement, support, relationship, timing, simplification, decisions, opportunities, closure, structure, a new rhythm, or the sense that something is finally beginning to organize around the light truth you have been living from internally. So theme 9 is the first structural forming. It is not the final architecture. This is the first shape and the guides are clear. Do not force finality into first form. Let form begin, let it show itself, let the field reveal what it has already moved. Let support become practical, let timing clarify, let relational fit become evident. Let old loops lose reinforcement. Let ease become believable. Let the first structural form gather naturally. The month of May is not asking you to create the next reality through force. It's asking you to remain in the soul tone that reality can now begin taking shape around. So, again, do not force finality into or onto first form. This is one of the most important instructions for the month of May. When the first shape appears, the mind may want to know what it means forever. It may want the full plan. It may want guarantees. It may want certainty before the form has had time to mature. The month of May asks for a different relationship to form. Friends, let it begin. Let it gather. Let it show itself. Let it become clearer through consistency. Let the field reveal what is actually reorganized. Visible reorganization is not the same as completion. It is the moment when the field begins forming around the stabilized signal, the stabilized soul signal, and the human begins seeing that the inner work is no longer isolated from lived reality. And this is where the month of May becomes deeply encouraging because the month shows your coherence is not only internal, your soul tone is not only recognizable. Your signal is not only being answered, it is beginning to become formative. Life begins taking shape around what is true, and that is the month of May. Whew, let's take a nice deep breath on that. I will say, in talking about the month of May, when the guides are saying, not to rush, like when the first shape appears, the mind want to know what it means forever. I will say I've seen this, you know, I've experienced it not only in my own life, but I've also seen it in working with clients, also, family and friends, loved ones, where you meet somebody and it's a romantic connection. And, it's that first shape appears, it's that romantic connection. And then the mind, it's a great connection. Oh my God, it feels so amazing to talk to this person. And then the mind wants to know what it means forever. It may want the full plan, it may want guarantees. And so you then jump from being in stage one, trying to then force yourself into, I don't know, stage, let's just say the later stage. And that's really what the guides are talking about here. It's like taking a breath and giving yourself a different relationship to form because I've seen just, you know, patterns of this where people are in habits and patterns of just having a first date or a second date, and next thing you know they're saying this is the one, and it could be, may not be, it could be somewhere in the middle. And that's where the human is trying to immediately, the mind wanting to know what it means forever and wants to know the full plan. And that is why the guides are like, just let it begin, let it gather, let it show, let it become clearer through consistency. And so using that dating, example, it's like let yourself go on some dates and see, if you may have an amazing first date and it's about like this connection. It may not be about having a connection for the rest of your lifetime. It may just be for a moment or it could be for a couple moments. But let it begin, let it gather, let it show itself, let it become clearer through consistency. Let the field reveal what is actually reorganized. And that's really what the guides are talking about here. So, my friends, you know, let yourself use your tools, lean into patience when you need to, and ask your guides for support, your soul for support as you're moving through, this month or any month, actually. All right. So with that, then, um, when we gather all the 9 themes together, we see a month where response begins becoming visible. So we see evidence without gripping, movement without tone departure, support without self betrayal, contact revealing true fit, timing reorganizing through accuracy, old loops losing reinforcement, decisions aligning with soul signal, ease becoming safer for the body, and reality beginning to take shape around the stabilized signal, around the stabilized soul signal. And that is what the month of May can offer. The month of May is not asking you to become more coherent. It's asking you to remain coherent while life begins showing what coherence has changed. You do not need to force form. You do not need to chase support. You do not need to adjust your tone once contact becomes more real. You do not need to grip evidence. You are learning to remain in structural residency while visible reorganization begins. So, with that, take another deep breath. And before we close this out, and I'm going to be moving into doing the dowsing session for the Inspiring You All Access Patreon group, let's just take some time to just do some breath work here. So take another breath, inhale, and allow your body, your human, to receive this phrase. And you can repeat it after me if you wish to. So breathing in, I can remain in soul tone while form begins. And then breathing out, soften the reflex to manage what is still forming. And then again, breathe in, inhale. I can allow support to become practical. And then exhale. I do not have to leave myself to receive it. And let's do another breath. Inhale. Reality can begin taking shape around what is true. Exhale. I do not have to force the form. All right, take a couple more breaths in and out. All right, my friends. Okay, so for those listening to the public version, I just want to say thank you for being here and receiving the May 2026 energy forecast. And here's a crystalline Reiki blessing. May your field recognize the evidence of what has already moved. May your body trust support as it becomes practical. May contact reveal true fit with clarity and care. May timing reorganize through coherence. May ease become believable. May form begin without force. Take another breath on that. All right. So, for those staying for the dowsing energy healing session, we're going to be moving into that. That's also, just to remind everybody, that's available for the all access members and the Inspiring You Patreon. The link is in the show notes if you wish to join. And I just want to say to everybody who's listening on the public version, thank you so, so much for being here. Thank you so much for everything. Much, much love. Until soon, and stay inspired, my friends.